live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on the first day of fall. Good to be with you. My favorite season's upon us. Illinois, we got some cooler weather, some pleasantly cooler weather today. It was very nice to be outside this morning and even throughout the day. Hoping this sets the tone for what should be a really good fall. Fingers crossed, because I can't remember a first day of fall being this nice. So that's got me in a really good mood today. I'm Steve Pulaski. It is Sleepless with Steve, coming to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time, or in this case, just a smidge tardy this evening. Dominic Guanzon in the blue, Joe Viso back and better than ever in his own right. After a week absence. My God, Joe, you missed us reviewing the Marvel movie nobody cares about.
No, a Marvel movie? Which one?
Oh, of course, the illustrious Man-Thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't miss much then.
Yeah, before there was Fantastic Four and after Elektra, there was Man-Thing. So if you missed that episode, you can go back and watch that about the forgotten R-rated Sci-Fi Network Marvel movie.
I'm definitely going to go watch it myself because, not the movie, like I'm just going to watch your guys' review. Maybe I'll check out the movie, but it's like, I have never heard anybody talk about it, but whenever I've seen like top 10 worst comic book movie lists, that movie is on there. But I've never heard anyone actually like talk about it.
It's honestly not even like total garbage. It's just deserves to be forgotten. Like really deserves to be forgotten.
That's really what it is. Like we both talked about it. Like it wasn't offensively bad. I almost kind of wished it was offensively bad. It was just aggressively mediocre. X-Men Apocalypse was worse, truthfully. But I would watch Man-Thing all week long before I watch X-Men Apocalypse again. But that's neither here nor there. That episode's behind us. This episode's in front of us. We are reviewing Clint Eastwood's movie Cry Macho today. Looking forward to that. Talking about that movie now in theaters and streaming on HBO Max. And also, we haven't mentioned his name really since the news broke, and this was back on the radio show. We kept waiting with bated breath for the other shoe to drop on Dan Schneider. And, of course, there was a New York Times article back in late June that was his first interview since his firing from Nickelodeon. Very, very interesting article. If you haven't gotten a chance to read that yet, I recommend you do if you're interested at all of like, you know, the story and the internet hoopla that surrounds Dan Schneider. It's fascinating because he hasn't spoken publicly since this firing. And he's got a new project in the works, and he also addresses the rampant, persistent internet allegations, which I think might still be. It's either that or Justice League or Black Panther. That still might be one of our most, if not the most viewed Sleepless with Steve clip in the history of this show when we talked about Dan Schneider. I would not read the comments on those videos as they are woefully unproductive to the discourse, but it was no less the floodgates were open. We'll dive into that in a minute. More over. Dominic, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's things are. It's like it's already October, and like, well, I know it's literally September 22nd, but you know, everyone's mind is already like fall, Halloween, October. So, and there's a thing in the Philippines. Not that I'm too Filipino. I'm like 100% Filipino, but like culturally, I'm more American. But anyway, there's a thing where it's like when the burrs begin, that's when Christmas starts. I'm sure I messed up that phrase, but when it's September, October, November, when the burrs begin, that's when Christmas starts. And it's like it doesn't let up until like mid-January. That's how it is in the Philippines. And it's like, you know, I kind of get it. Like just nonstop for when you know you're busy. It's just nonstop holidays, which is kind of cool, don't get me wrong, but it just happens so fast. God, it railroads you.
No, it's really a 4-month march to the holidays. I always say that around September 1st, September 2nd. It's really just a 4-month march to the holidays. Look how quickly September's gone. We're already in week 3 of the NFL season too, which I'm very excited about as well. So it's just been nonstop, and it's going to be. It'll be Thanksgiving before you know it, to say the least. Joe, how are you? I don't notice that new Shang-Chi poster in your background too. I don't notice that.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm doing as good as a person does after they get back from a vacation they really enjoyed and have to go back to work. But my vacation was very good. I had a great time. I went to New York City. I only been out there once, and the last time I went out there, I was only out there for 3 days for a convention, and I really didn't get to see much out there, and this time I got to see a lot more, and I really appreciate the city. It was really cool that, I mean, this might not be cool for some people, but it was really cool that, like, my vaccination card got me into places, and I got to see it turn away people because they didn't have one. I felt like an exclusive member in New York City, like some part of, like, elite culture, which was nice because New York's really expensive, so... Yeah, it was a very good trip, and yes, I have a Shang-Chi poster now because I just had... I literally didn't want to hang it up, I just had nowhere else to put it, and I was like, screw it, I'll put it next to, like, my Marvel thing right there. And if you haven't seen Shang-Chi, definitely check it out. It's really fun, and it'll be coming to Disney Plus if you want to wait in November, I think the 17th, so, yeah.
Indeed. Let's get started with the show, then. Good to have the gang back together once again. We might as well dive in to Dan, insert joke here, Schneider. I'm sure the comments will do us wonders on that when this video is re-uploaded. But Dan Schneider, I guess he was in the news. This kind of passed. This article totally slipped by. I don't really remember exactly how I stumbled upon it again. It was last week sometime. I think I was just looking him up for something or whatever, and I stumbled upon it. But there's a New York Times article that came out in late June that is an exclusive interview for the first time Dan Schneider's given an interview since he was fired from Nickelodeon back in 2018. Now, we talked about that in lieu of that firing because it was interesting. We talked about it on the radio show, and it was fascinating because it was shortly after a contract renewal, I do believe, with Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider. It was abrupt as all hell. There wasn't any concrete reason. Nickelodeon just released some typical PR statement about it. And if you guys remember the context of the world at the time, it was right in the height of the Me Too movement. And for years, even before the Me Too movement really caught wind or caught fire, Schneider's name was thrown out there a lot on social media as somebody who could potentially be a problematic individual to both his cohorts and his actors. And as we know, Dan Schneider, creator of such shows as Drake and Josh, All That, The Amanda Show, Zoe 101, iCarly, and Victorious more recently, Henry Danger too, if you care about that. But of all that, working with minors almost exclusively on those shows. And I remember even saying it because we were on radio last time talking about this. We have to be careful how we approach this because it's a lot of hearsay and it's a lot of Reddit articles and YouTube videos. Like, there's no real evidence yet. And we kept waiting for the shoe to drop, the three of us, and we never, because I thought for sure within the next maybe month or two of that of him getting fired, that somebody would come out and say something. But nobody
you think it'd
really
be like a House of Cards, like a Cosby or a Weinstein situation. But I'm maybe not fully, but I'm fairly convinced that if something like damning, even like an accusation, like a really like, okay, you're aiming for that. Not even, I don't mean to say aiming, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, if the accusation is up there, it's like, but everything just seems to be he's an asshole, which
pretty much
par for the course for Hollywood or just the world of entertainment, right?
Which isn't illegal. Sure. It's frowned upon to be an asshole, but it's not illegal. At the end,
I'm glad
of the day.
it's getting more frowned upon to be an asshole. That's good. That's progress, I think. But like, I would think. But I'm just saying, if something, Weinstein or Cosby level hasn't dropped quite yet, either he's got an amazing wash team that he's paying really damn well to keep tabs on everything. I don't freaking know. That's all hearsay. That's all speculation. Or it just ain't there quite yet. I don't know. Because I've tried searching for it. It's just not there. I don't know.
No, it's not. And I mean, first things first, though, if you look at this New York Times article, which again is a very fascinating, very quick read. I read this thing twice. He looks different. He's lost a lot of weight. That guy's lost probably over 100 pounds. He looks very different. He looks cleaner. He looks healthier as just an individual. And he's been on a hiatus for the last 3 years. And it's funny because this New York Times article written by Matt Stevens and Julia Jacobs, it opens with him with the story of him accepting Nickelodeon's first and only Lifetime Achievement Award back in 2014. And it's kind of a humbling image too, because he's surrounded by like Victoria Justice and Drake Bell and Nathan Kress and Ariana Grande and all these people that, you know, whose careers he helped launched. I mean, at the end of the day, the Norman Lear of children's TV, the New York Times once billed him as, which is, you know, fairly accurate for all intents and purposes. Norman Lear never had this level of allegations, though, or at least this kind of criticism levied to him in this big a way. But there's a lot to talk about with Dan Schneider. Another detail is that I guess he's got a new pilot in the works. I don't know if it's doing super well, though, because in the article it says that he should know, or we should know by the end of July if it's greenlit. It's now the middle of September, and you can't find any information on it outside of this article. So I don't know. And he doesn't really give too much information on this show, aside from the fact that it's going to be a brand new network. It's going to be a bit more adult oriented. And it's going to be ambitious. That's the word he keeps throwing around with this. But he goes into, and I was kind of surprised, he goes into these allegations a little bit and stuff. And there's a lot. I don't know if we can't really go piece by piece in this of all the information and stuff like that. But there's some interesting stuff in here too. I mean, it talks about his upbringing and whatnot, but then it like talks about, I think the thing that I got a kick out of the most, you know, a lot of people have addressed, because there's a lot of anonymous quotes. A lot of people address his temper, his attitude, and just his general work ethic, which was really intense from what a lot of people say. And he was often known to like lose his temper a lot. There's that brought up quite a bit. And I'm trying to find the one quote that I was laughing at when I read this whole thing. It was talking about like how he would, he had a bathroom that was near his office that apparently was only for him. And then he would sometimes be pushed around from room to room in a chair so he could keep working. Like, Jesus Christ.
He's got issues. He's got serious...
like some, there's a lot of this, and there's multiple people that are saying this too. There's multiple anonymous quotes that are saying this and confirming this. Even the one guy who sings his praises and said it was fundamental best years of his life getting a start there as a writer on Dan Warp and Schneider's Bakery for 6 years, talked about what a prick he could be, talked about what an intense prick he could be. It seems like this guy, you know what it really seems like? And then I'm going to throw it over to you, Joe. You know what it really seems like to me? This seems like a guy who never left high school. That's what this sounds like. This sounds like a guy who's never left high school. And it's one of those things too. You kind of see this sometimes with like educators and teachers in some ways, because especially that are in, teaching high school and stuff like that, they never really leave high school, and they're surrounded by the gossip of their kids and their students. It's kind of like in this situation. He's writing for kids and teens and tweens. He's working around a lot of young people in a very hectic industry. The shows that he does got sillier and sillier over time. And I think he's adopted that mindset of kind of like the baby in the room who always gets everything, because Nickelodeon treated him like a damn king, from the very beginning. Nobody ever challenged him, it sounds like. That's what it reads like to me. I agree with Dom's point, though. And again, Joe, you take it from here. I agree with your earlier point, though, Dom. If there was some damning factual thing, I mean, I would have thought Jeanette McCurdy would have come out. What the hell does she have to lose? What the hell does she have to lose at this point in her career? If anything did happen, Amanda Bynes is another one who, is not tied in the Nickelodeon family anymore. that's kind of my 2 cents on it. It's a fascinating read. Joe, what say you about this article?
I'm kind of glad you brought up this whole idea that he's like still like a high schooler basically because he's surrounded by everything. So I brought up this image of Steve Buscemi in a high school saying, "How do you do, fellow kids?" Because like that's probably how he looked coming into boardroom meetings and like script readings for shows of iCarly, Victorious, and all those other shows that he created. Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'll start with this. I can't say like this guy didn't make some of my favorite shows to watch on Nickelodeon. I loved watching Drake and Josh, and like even like stuff like iCarly and Zoe. Like I actually did enjoy Zoe 101, but iCarly and Victorious after that, like I wasn't as crazy about them as I was for Drake and Josh and even Zoe 101. But I did tune in more often than not to like watch it. So it's just like I understand like how popular this guy was at the network and how much power he probably did have that made him feel the way he was and create the asshole that he turned out to be. So I'm not surprised at all that like when all the stories came out about him being an a-hole, because like I remember I used to like see those like behind the scenes things, and I always used to have like a creepy vibe from him. And then as Steve pointed out, when he left in 2018 excuse me, I felt, oh well, here we go, this is obviously going to be it, there's going to be something dropping like as soon as possible. And I remember like each night before going to bed at college, I would Google his name every Tuesday night leading up to the show. I'm like, just in case, I mean, is there anything? And then we would do the show Wednesday at 12 a.m. And again, nothing came of it. It was just so weird. And it's either what Dom said, where it's like this man either has like the best like legal team to keep this on the down low, or like maybe he just didn't do anything and he was just honestly a dickhead to everybody that he worked with. And I'm hoping it's the latter, because the last thing I want, like as much as I'm like expose this dude, it's just like, but in the end it's like, well then that means something horrible must have happened to Victoria Justice, Miranda Cosgrove, Ariana Grande, and even Jeanette McCurdy, which and like who knows. I remember when Drake Bell stuff came out, I was like, okay, here we go, maybe like there'll be something tied to this. But yeah, there wasn't. But I mean, if he comes back to TV, which it doesn't seem like he is, because as Steve pointed out, that whole pilot hasn't even had like anything come out yet. Excuse me, my throat is very dry, I need some water. Excuse me. I feel like we should have saw something by now, but regardless, it's whatever. I hope this guy just stays out of the spotlight for as long as possible, because it's just like he either was really creepy or an a-hole, and I don't think he should continue to work with kids or anybody for that matter, regardless of what happened.
Problematic is the key word here.
There we go. Yeah, there it is.
Insert Bo Burnham's problematic in here, because it really is that. And like there's some weird details, man. There's one here without even like it happened. There's this YouTube video called Victoria Justice Takes Us on a Tour of Victorious, circa August 7, 2012. And it's linked in the New York Times article. And in there, it's really forced. It's one of those stupid, like 4-minute fake behind the scenes things where you just get to look at Victoria Justice for 4 minutes, essentially. It's content, but
Content.
Yeah. She's like, hey, look at some parts of the set a little more closely than when you see in the show. She opens up her fake locker, right? And it's like, it's got a bunch of girl things, right? And of course, one of them is like hot guys, stuff a high schooler would do, right? At least high schoolers as you would write them. But it's like, hey, here's a picture of hot guys, and one of the pictures is Dan Schneider, is like young Dan Schneider, and it's like, gee, that's really weird. Now, as the article states, apparently Dan Schneider was like, someone on the art team probably put that on there as a joke, which is very possible. But also, if Dan Schneider's really as controlling as he is, that's kind of weird, dude. Like,
if he's as controlling and prone to snap as he is, then why would somebody in the as an art director go just tack something, especially him knowing his temper, tack a photo of him in high school into Victoria Justice's locker, which is going to be used as a bit on the website or something like that.
Yeah, either they wouldn't do that because they know that would piss him off, or they know that he would like that. and that's weird.
Yeah, you got to consider
So,
that too.
It's just weird. It's problematic. It cannot be stated how influential Dan Schneider is. It cannot be stated how influential Dan Schneider is in the world of children's television. Really, for a whole stretch of time, from what, the 90s to just a few years ago, it seems like. Even if you look back at his work and like you roll your eyes at some of the stuff he does, right? No, he was a producer for all that was so influential, like for the first 2 seasons, and then wound up being an executive producer for seasons 4 through 10, right? So like you can draw a straight line from Kenan Thompson's career to now him being like the veteran cast member on SNL. Like you can draw a straight line to that. Like that's, wow, Jesus, that's like kingmaker stuff right there, man. And like
I got in a discussion with a coworker today about Good Burger, actually, because he wrote that. He wrote Good Burger. He's in it.
Yeah.
Because he only ever wrote 2 movies, to my knowledge. He wrote Good Burger and he wrote Big Fat Liar. And I think Big Fat Liar was the last movie he even ever worked on. But those were just 2 fundamentally good movies. That I think even adults would find charming. They weren't too stupid. They weren't too random. They were just well-made, defining 90s, early 2000s comedy. I mean, Dan Schneider, even with everything we know, the Norman Lear of children's TV is not hyperbolic. That's not a hyperbolic way to describe him. No, it's not. Just in terms of just the shows he juggled. It's not like he did one at a time either.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You can't deny it. He's a hard worker, and he made money. He got the ratings. He launched whole careers. So if not Kenan Thompson, then Ariana Grande is going to be the one that really has had the most effect on, because now she's like a de facto pop star whenever you just think pop music, right? So it's just fascinating to see the case of Dan Schneider, and this story has not ended. It really hasn't, right? You can't, whoever's going to make this Netflix documentary just needs to keep on waiting, because honestly, I feel like we're in a lull, obviously, but shit might hit the fan when like his new show comes out. And, we said earlier that, hey, Jeanette McCurdy, Amanda Bynes, what do you got to lose? At the same time, maybe the trauma is so bad that they just don't want to relive. I mean, for crying out loud, Jeanette McCurdy's podcast is literally dealing with depression, and like she did a one-woman show called "I'm Glad My Mother's Dead," or and like, Jesus Christ, you've been through some shit, girl. All the best to you. And like, if you find the courage to, if something with Dan Schneider, I hope you find the courage to come forward, because maybe it's only a matter of time where the dominoes will fall. But yeah, again, like Joe said, I hope first of all, I hope none of that actually happened, traumatizing to these actors. But like, I don't know, dude. It's
anyways, Scott Fellows, you're a good guy. Nesdy Classify was my favorite show on Nick at Night, or Nick Teen Nick, next to Drake and Josh. So good job not being a weirdo or an a-hole.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll say too, I said back when that video, or when we did that segment on the radio show, I said we'd keep posting on it. I did a bad job because I'm almost 3 months late at seeing this article, but I can't find any information on this alleged show that he's got, and that's this pilot, so I don't know if it got picked up or anything. I wonder what network it would even go to.
I mean, to be fair,
I wonder, it would probably be a streaming thing.
I'm not surprised we did miss this, because it's just like, who the hell has been even thinking about him throughout everything that's been happening in 2020 and 2021. Like,
it's true.
Like, between Black Lives Matter, a pandemic, the election, the world literally burning because of Australia and California. It's just like, yeah, Dan Schneider was like the least. I forgot he existed, honestly. The only time I was reminded of his presence is when we watched iCarly, because it said characters created by Dan Schneider. I said, oh yeah, that jagoff still exists.
There's a certain hubris to him coming back, because he could have just like rode out the chaos that was the last several years, while also like I'm sure. I don't know how rich he is, but he's got to be rich, right? He has royalties off of all those syndication up the wazoo.
He got syndication, dude. Not only that, not to interrupt you, syndication number one, number two. Nickelodeon paid him $7 million to fuck off.
Oh, that's right.
Like,
so they're
like seriously to use our F-bomb.
That's some
today.
good shut the fuck up money.
No, we can't.
You're
say
right. Hey, you're right.
Well, it's like what coaches do. It's like what coaches, or it's like what again, not to relate it. We'll burn some of the clock here because we'll take a break anyway. But it's like USC football. They just fired their coach, Clay Helton. They paid him a $12 million buyout. Do you know how much they wanted him gone? The last thing companies want to do is give you money not to work. That's the last thing they want to do is buy out a contract. You know, hell, to still keep the football analogy, the Bears love this. I still think that's why Nagy's got a job still, because they don't want to pay him out. But
I think we can all agree before we go into the football. But I think we can all agree that the fact that he's coming back, even when like the internet, the audience that grew up with him now hates him. Deserve it or not, that's for everyone to decide. But the fact that he's coming back at all pretty much confirms that, yeah, he's an asshole. Because you could just walk away and be humble and do that. But no, you just want to keep doing stuff, right?
I mean, there's a part of me that understands why you want to try to save face, especially if you really are going to stick to this narrative that you didn't do anything wrong. Like, I guess I would say I don't know. There really wasn't a lot of humility in that. He didn't come off as very humble either in that piece, which I don't think does him any favors.
Hey, Joe, do you have the article pulled up? I don't know if you can.
No, I've been having trouble. Yeah, I've been having trouble because of the paywall. I was able to open it to read it, and then the last time I closed it was the last time I got to use it. I'm on a people.com article though.
It's like, you shouldn't have put this up. This makes me trust you less.
That image,
like, he doesn't come off as the most humble person in the world either. Like, he's talking about, like, if I was that way, it's because I cared about the show and everything. Like you're not gonna win any arguments that way. Not with this generation. Not with people our age, who are like, I mean, and it's hard to reconcile that too. Is that like, I hate using the phrase "you were our childhood," man, but the guy was the defining television figure for our childhood. Like, again. Norman Lear of children's TV, the guy's name was on damn near everything, second only to Trump.
Dude, I remember just coming into school on Monday and just talking about what we watched Saturday night. And it was literally the new episode of Drake and Josh. Are Zoe and Chase going to get together? And the rules about surviving middle school.
It's guaranteed. It's guaranteed to say like something Dan Schneider touched was on television. Now, whether it's a show or literally an actor, I don't know. But like something Dan Schneider touched, I don't know. But like something he touched was something that we would talk about weekly. You're absolutely right. Like, God,
because now I don't know what kids do. Kids talk about, devious licks and everything on TikTok.
Yeah.
But, whatever the hell.
Kids pull out their phones kids pull out their phones and make TikToks together now. And they
but honestly, it was what was on TV Saturday night. Like, what show did you watch? What, how'd you think of the new Drake and Josh episode? Or like, God forbid too. Like, oh my God, the Drake and Josh hour-long episodes. They're like the Zoe 101, like
really big
spring break, really big shrimp. Zoe 101 spring break, or something like that. It was huge. It was huge.
Are we gonna review this? Are we gonna review this show, whatever it is?
If it's on,
if it even exists.
Yeah, if it's on a streaming platform, I wouldn't mind checking out the pilot and actually talking about it because I want to see.
Guys, what if it's good? What if it's like really good?
I want to see this mature take of Dan Schneider's comedy. Like, I'm not saying it's gonna be like mature as in like, oh, grown up, but like, older, like more adult comedy. Because I'm just like, dude, man, if you're still putting ketchup on feet and shit, like that just makes me even think you did something even more now.
Nah, he's gonna replace random dancing with occasional waltzing,
occasional flossing, fucking.
Look, man, hey, did you get the vibe that the writers of this article, the authors of this article, kind of didn't know what they were talking about? I mean, they did homework, but like they said, the Amanda show had dancing lobsters, and iCarly had random tacos, and it's like that's not why we like those shows.
No, there were other shows.
Well,
I mean, well, you know, if nothing else, it's like I understand they brought it up because those were like the focal points, not focal points, but they were like what made that thing unique. You know, that's what Schneider did, dancing lobsters and all that crap.
What Dom wanted to see was like the Amanda Show is known for dancing lobsters, and iCarly has Gibby. It's just like that's what he wanted to see in the article.
And we wanted
like
to see
random like Wire references.
We wanted to see how long it would take for Chase to get out of the friend zone in Zoe 101, oh brother. We will move forward. We're going to take a quick Zoom sponsored intermission right here. Come on back, round out the show talking about Clint Eastwood's new movie, Cry Macho, now in theaters and streaming on HBO Max. Looking forward to chatting about this. Back in about a minute and a half. Don't go anywhere. Sleepless with Steve. Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. Steve Pulaski with you. Joe Viso, going to take a momentary pause for the cause over here. Dominic Guanzon sticking by me, however, to talk about Cry Macho, the new Clint Eastwood movie. Now in theaters and streaming on HBO Max. Did you go to the theater for this, or did you just settle in at home?
I'm glad I didn't. I am glad I didn't.
Ouch. Oh, my goodness. We're going to have some dissent in this room.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I was a bit. Here's the good word I'm going to employ right now. I was a tad perturbed, if you will, when I saw that Clint Eastwood was directing yet another movie after The Mule, which I thought would have been a really good swan song. I don't know if you saw The Mule a couple years ago. Very good film. I thought that would have been a really good last movie. It wasn't really that I lacked faith that the 91-year-old Clint Eastwood wouldn't have another good movie in him, but it was more of the high regard I held for The Mule. It was not merely a really fitting finale, but it was a comfortable one. If you haven't seen it, it involves Clint Eastwood playing this crotchety, like drug runner, a mule essentially, who's kind of like coming to grips with his troubled legacy and his like strained relationship with his daughter, on top of doing like one last ride. And the whole movie was centered on like one last ride, and it came out the same year. And it came out the same year as The Old Man and the Gun, which was Robert Redford's last film, which was a fitting movie as well. But now Cry Macho, I'm not gonna lie, it's not as good as The Mule. It's not as good as The Mule, but it's pretty good, I think. It's not without its flaws. One thing that is absolutely still on display, two things that are very trademark Eastwood. Number one is that Eastwood is very economical with his filmmaking details and structure, and you can tell that. He's usually not a fan of doing more than 2 takes, and that comes off at some points.
Yeah, it
in
does.
certain elements. The other thing that Eastwood isn't, the one thing that Eastwood isn't is an actor coach. He's not. His best movies are with veterans. His best movies are with veterans. I swear to God, that's one of the big reasons $1 Million Baby won so big, was because he had Hilary Swank. He had people that already knew the basics of how to act. The number one thing that made me nervous with this movie, and it's right now the biggest criticism I have with it, is that the person he's acting alongside with this is his first film role, in Eduardo Meunier.
Yeah.
And the kid's rough. The kid is rough. Like, he's sensitive, you can tell that, but damn, is his line reading clumsy. He's clumsy here. And clearly Eastwood's not coaching him. And I can make even another argument too. One of Eastwood's worst movies is the 1517 to Paris, because for some inexplicable reason, it's based on the true story of a hijacking of a train, of terrorists hijacking a train. For some inexplicable reason that still doesn't make sense to me, why there was a period of time when movies did this, when they cast the real life people that were actually involved in the attack, or displayed heroics during it. He cast the 3 men who actually saved that train in the movie. And it's like, okay, these guys, number one, they can't act. And number two, Clint Eastwood's not going to have the patience to teach them how to act either.
No.
He's not Richard Linklater. He's not a Richard Linklater who's known as a really good actor coach on screen. But that's probably my biggest gripe with this. I do think I will justify there is a decent amount to like here in this movie, though. There is quite a bit to like in this movie. It's very simple. I don't think it's revelatory, but I do think it's relevant to Eastwood, and especially the story of how this movie came to be, and I'll talk about it in a minute. Dom, you're chomping at the bit. What say you about Cry Macho?
You actually touched on quite a bit there, and the main thing that gets me is that this movie clearly is centered around the relationship between the old man and the boy. It's a road movie. It's a road trip movie, and there's a lot of introspection, but none of those things came out at all for me. The things you look forward to in those movies, this doesn't seem like the movie that wants to break cliches. That's fine. You can do that. But you can't even nail some of those. The big thing that stood out to me, I think the most obvious thing, is going to be Eduardo Menez's is his first acting gig.
Yeah.
I feel bad because, I get it, right? Imagine being a young actor, right? And it's like, hey, I get to act alongside Clint freaking Eastwood. Hell yeah, I'm gonna take that. But you're right. I'm surprised. I've seen quite a few Clint Eastwood directed movies. It's like, yeah, J. Edgar. Yeah, that was actually entertaining. It got boring in the middle and the end for me. But it's Leo, right? It's Leonardo DiCaprio. He can carry a movie easily, no doubt. American Sniper, all right, a little too heavy to the point where I would never really want to see that movie again. It's good, but I never really want to see it again. But Bradley Cooper can carry a movie.
Sully.
I don't know if Clint Eastwood at 91. First of all, I don't know if Clint Eastwood at 91 can carry a movie anymore.
I don't
think he has this screen presence. I think he's just too old. And it's like, when I look at him, it's like, this is kind of sad. Now, I haven't seen The Mule, but just that sounds like a movie that is geared towards that. It's like, okay, the character is literally 90 years old, apparently.
Yes.
And he's he has to it's his last ride and all that stuff. Okay, that makes sense. I can not seen it. At least I can see how he can play into that given his age. Here it's like it's just anyone who can be old and run down.
Yeah.
Older. Like honestly, this character could be like 60s.
This character could have been played by Harrison Ford. This character could have been played by like literally any older man in Hollywood.
Fun fact, and I'll chime in with this. Clint Eastwood they've been trying to get, Hollywood's been trying to get this Cry Macho movie made for several years. Clint Eastwood was offered the role back in 1988.
Yeah.
He was offered the role back in 88. And fittingly, and this is why I really liked, I like this movie. Fittingly at the time, Clint Eastwood, who was like in his, I think, late 50s, felt he was A, too old for the role, and B, opted instead to do the Deadpool, which is a Dirty Harry sequel, which is very fitting to like, you know, which is like the antithesis of the theme of this movie. Now, here's the thing, though, is that the character in Mike Milo in the Cry Macho novel is like in his 40s or 50s. Clint Eastwood's 91 in this. And there's a moment, the most comical moment where you could tell, I don't think it's jarring. I don't think it's unholy to the whole script. I don't think it's a bastardization. I mean, N. Robert Nash, who wrote the book, co-wrote the movie. So I don't think that it's a real bastardization of it. Granted, I haven't read the novel. But the one scene that tells you that this movie was made for a younger actor, like in their 50s, is the scene when the boy's mother wants to jump his bones and have sex with him. I'm like, you are going to break the old bastard. You are going to break the old dude. Like,
none of that made sense to me.
You're going to need something by Pfizer, and it ain't going to be the vaccine. You're going to need like 3 or 4 of those. Okay. I'm just saying.
You're going to need what Hugh Hefner had, like, to keep him going after all that time, man, around all those girls. Cause like, damn
IV bag. I love Clint Eastwood.
Like, I know that character. I know that character is supposed to be mentally unstable. Yeah. But Jesus Christ, even I was like, this doesn't translate well at all. And so, yeah, you know, I honestly think Clint Eastwood is too old to act. He can like clearly he can make a movie acting, but like to hold any kind of screen presence, it takes me out of it. It took me out of it the whole time. I'm sorry. And like, again, so then you have that obstacle. So imagine, I'm doing it from the point of view of Raphael or Eduardo Manet. It's like, imagine having that obstacle. And then, yeah, Clint Eastwood is apparently not really a good actor, coach, director. So it's like, oh, wow, this is your first film, not even like first couple, your literal first one. Yeah. That sucks. Like the cards were, the stage was set for him to not look good here, which is really unfortunate. Like I really feel for the guy.
You know what? Shame on me too. Just to interrupt myself. Shame on me. I completely forgot. Shame on me. The Mule was not his last movie. It was Richard Jewell.
Yeah.
It was Richard Jewell. I totally forgot that he did that movie.
Was he in Richard Jewell?
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He directed.
So you could say like his last acting role was going to be the Mule. So that I thought that's what you meant.
That's a little bit of a correction there.
You know, it's funny. Richard Jewell sounds like the perfect movie for me because it deals with like media and stuff. But like,
it's a very good movie. It is. It's a very good movie.
Yeah. So
very good film.
He can direct because like Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima, which I think is the greatest novel idea of all time. Not like novel as in book. Like it's like a very novel idea to do like a side movie, like a parallel movie. Yeah. I'm surprised no one does that. But like, and those movies are fantastic.
Was like out of this world good. Like the fact that it was actually just from the Japanese perspective, like that to me gave it a whole like bump up way higher than Flags of Our Fathers.
Yeah, for sure. And Flags of Our Fathers wasn't even that bad. Just Iwo Jima was just that good.
Yeah.
And like so you could work with actors who are like literally speak a different language. Like what the hell? And it's like I think you're just too old to do this job now to the levels that would be deemed good. Like this movie is just boring. It is a hard watch. It just didn't pull through. And like, I honestly think part of it's also the script too. Like it is like, okay, when Natalia, the girl he winds up with, spoilers, but like you can see it happening. Even in that sense, it's like, okay, yeah, she's not as young and she's got kids, like more kids. You wouldn't be into this man. You would not be into this old man. Who are we kidding here? Again, took me out of the movie. And it honestly, at some parts, because of the acting between the kind of rookie acting of Monet, and then the old acting of Eastwood. It's like I feel like I'm watching like a really well shot like TV show here. Like I don't want to be too harsh on it, but that's honestly what I was feeling, and it sucks. Honestly, I would love to. I wish we had like a Latino or Latina person in the show, because I want to know how genuine those accents were, or if that was just Monet's youth. Because I understand, like, okay, at that age, you're just awkward. Like I recognize that. That doesn't even bother me. But like, couple that with the Mexican accent, and like and then you have to translate that to English, or like make it so that he's doing broken English. Actually, his English is really good. But I don't know. This whole movie was just awkward and boring, and it's not good.
A little harsh. Joe, what say you?
I hate to say it, Steve. I am more in line with what Dom is saying, unfortunately. I don't think this is one of Clint Eastwood's worst films, which I've seen people say that throughout, because like I'm like, man, y'all forgetting about 1517 to Paris.
That was awful.
But to me, Clint Eastwood, it's getting to a point now. His filmmaking is like, I guess it's starting to show even more. The cracks are starting to show even more because he's just getting older, and I don't know if it's just like he's losing his touch with filmmaking, but there's like things that he does that I'm just like, dude, like this just doesn't work anymore. You got to stop doing this. All right, we're gonna do up to like 2 takes, whatever we got there. That's what we're taking, because his 2 recent films, this one and 1517 to Paris, that caused some of the worst issues in that movie, especially 1517 to Paris, because that had no actors in it. That was all actual real people, these Marines and their best friend who were on the Paris train that got hijacked. And excuse me. With that movie, I mean, like, you know, it's just like you had no actors. This one, you at least have Eastwood, who, like, you know, has been acting for years. But I really do think the Mule probably should have been his last performance, because I thought he was really good in that movie. He fit the character to play based on the article that it's based on. And I was just like, this is perfect. Now with this film, there's those moments, where it's like women want to have sex with him, and just like some of the stuff he does and everything. Like even the injury that he has in the movie, it's just like, that didn't seem that bad, man. It's just like, maybe for a man your age and everything. I was just like, man, this is not as good as I thought it was going to be. I was really looking forward to this movie because I really enjoyed The Mule, and I really enjoyed Richard Jewell. I was just like, all right, maybe the man is like, you know, back at his, like, you know, his prime. I thought like those 2 movies were some of the best movies he's done since like Gran Torino and Invictus. But no, this one I was just like, oh wait, no, here's like the stuff I got used to seeing with 1517, J. Edgar, and even Jersey Boys to an extent, which I think Jersey Boys is a better film than those other 2 I mentioned, but it's still just not as good for me. This...
Look at you. It should be illegal for you to say an unkind word about Jersey Boys. Look at yourself.
I know. Hey, the Broadway like musical and everything, that's great. I have a great time watching that. The movie itself, it's whatever.
Fair point.
We'll wait till next week when, like, I don't know, maybe I just don't like this new Sopranos movie. Who knows? But yeah, to me, this movie, like, all of his filmmaking, like, that he's known for, it really, the flaws of it really show in this movie and 1517 to Paris. But like, it just sucked to be reminded of it in this film, because Eastwood is front and center. So you start to see also, like, man, like, he's just not as good as he used to be either. I don't know if it's because, like, he's losing his voice now more than ever, so some line delivery is just not as good either. It just sucked to see, man. Like, it was just like, man, The Mule was really a perfect send-off movie for you as a performer, you as an actor. And, like, that could have been your perfect... And Richard Jewell could have been the one for directing, and if you want to make another film after that. This, to me, it's like, God, you're 91 years old, and it's like, I know you love making films and everything, but it's just like, I hope you make one more, like, Last Ride film again. It's way better than this one, because I would hate for this to be his last, like, movie he directed and starred in, but more importantly, directed, because I always thought Eastwood was a better director than actor.
Let me say this. I'll chime in here. and I'll say this, because you're like I said, you guys are kind of walking into a point that I want to make too, and that I made in my review, stevepulaski.com. But the thing with this is the type of movie, because the critics haven't been super kind to this either. This is the type of movie I think that's going to get a lot. I think it's going to get more recognition, and I think it's going to be better received after the inevitable happens to Clint Eastwood, which who knows how much longer he's got in this world. This too is really, first off, I couldn't have expected this movie to continue to showcase Clint Eastwood's prime, because I think he's been out of his prime for a little while. I think he kind of re-entered it in a way with Gran Torino and Invictus and even Changeling, at least as a director. And The Flags of Our Fathers, Letters from Iwo Jima. Dom mentioning that, I want to go back and rewatch those. This is a man, though, who's 91 years old, and he's in absolutely no hurry. And I think that he's finding peace with himself and the fact that he went back to do this movie after he was offered it in 88, because they had a lot of opportunities. Robert Mitchum was apparently considered to be in this movie at one point. That's how long they've been shopping a Cry Macho screenplay. But it's the theme of Macho. It's the theme of the Macho man that really sticks with me too, because being a fan of Clint Eastwood and his older movies like Dirty Harry, like The Rookie, like a lot of these movies too, it says something to his state of mind at this time, that this is a movie which very well could end up being his last. And it ends with him imparting wisdom on a young boy who thinks being macho is the end all be all in life. And Clint Eastwood's over here like, for what though? And I think this is a movie too, coupled with that little nugget that ties in beautifully to Clint Eastwood's filmography. Couple that with a lot of the serene locational shots of this movie. I think that's what this movie ultimately and fittingly and successfully amounts to, is a movie of little moments and pithy little understandings from a man who is at a point in his life that he's in absolutely no hurry at all, and he's almost reconciling some of the moments that he's missed. The guy's 91, he's still riding a damn horse, too. That's another thing.
Was he riding that horse? There were some quick cuts to him just swerving to the side. I don't know, but
I believe Steve, he got on the damn thing.
Hey, he got on it. Steve, I actually completely agree. Yeah, putting it in that context. Thank you for putting it in that context. Actually getting to the heart of the film. Yeah, dude, Clint Eastwood, absolutely machismo. He is the epitome of that. My God, look at his snarl in any of the Dirty Harry films. Look at Good and Bad and the Ugly. He resonates machismo. He is a man's man. I would say Harrison Ford is the ultimate man's man, but Clint Eastwood is up there, bro. And like, dude, it just sucks that he didn't make this 10 to 50 years earlier. You know, because the execution just is not there. And it's really, to me, it's just.
But would it have been as meaningful 10 to 15?
Yes.
Or I mean, like 15 to 20 years ago?
Yes.
I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know. I think that even if he makes another one, I'm going to disagree with you there. I think even if he makes one or two more movies, if we're so fortunate, I think this is going to be like the last movie in a way. I'm not saying it's better than The Mule, but I think thematically too, it's almost as strong. At least it's like a companion piece, at least thematically, to sort of the legacy that he leaves behind. I think that's worth something.
Steve, as someone who thinks the politics of the Star Wars prequels are awesome, I wish those were good movies too. I wish the prequels were good movies, but they're not. And no matter how much time passes, no matter how shit the sequels were, they're just not good movies, my friend. Oh boy. Okay. I don't want to go all good, bad, ugly here, but like, I mean, it just hurts that like this movie is just him and the kid. That's the whole freaking movie, right? If it's American Sniper, where it's Bradley Cooper just popping heads off, yeah, that's a movie. Jersey Boys, yeah,
that's a movie.
That's a movie.
But you know what I'm saying, right? There's more things happening around you.
I mean, like, American Sniper, like, it literally is a man, like, suffering from the PTSD of war and being addicted to going to war and being.
There's a literal war going on.
A thing that they didn't talk about in the movie that's in the novel, but literally addicted to killing Iraqians because, like, he just was, like, that messed up in the head because of the war. But yeah, there is.
Yeah, he was an interesting guy.
There is a lot more with other films. Like same thing could be said about The Mule. Same thing could be said about Richard Jewell. Any of these other movies.
Yeah.
With this, like, yeah, it's just like you do have the theme of yes, one last ride, one last job that he has to take to get this kid away from his alcoholic mother, and everything. And it's just like once they're on the road and it's just them, and every once in a while, like, you know, the henchmen and whatnot, like, it's just like, all right, well, this movie's really sloppy to me. Like when you get to like at least like the second act onward, and it's just like that theme is what kept me going, and how and how it did tie into Clint Eastwood's legacy as a filmmaker and what he's done for Hollywood over the years and the staples he's created with westerns and everything, and like, you know, people like Dirty Harry and like all those other things. But it's just like at the end of the day, by the time the movie was over, it's like, I don't know if I'm really gonna remember this movie by the end of the year. This is gonna be one of those movies.
No.
Like, it sucks to say, I'm gonna forget it by the end of the year when it comes time to make my top 5, bottom 5. And I'm not saying it's gonna make it in either list, but it's just like, oh, what movies did I see? And I'm gonna go through Wikipedia and see what released, and I'll see Cry Macho, and I'll be like, what the hell is that? And then I'll click on it and be like, oh, that's right.
Okay, look, I don't want to be
number one. You should be
libido.
making a list. Number one, you should be making a list of all the movies you watch in a calendar year. I've been doing this since 2012. You need to catch up. You need to catch up. Anyway, I've been doing it actually earlier than that. Anyway, go on, Dom.
No, I just made a joke about Eastwood's libido. But anyway, let's we should probably transition to reviews, or not reviews, ratings and stuff. Yeah.
All right.
Why don't I start? Why don't I start? I never start.
Yeah, get yours out of the way.
Which I appreciate, actually. Giving me that before. But yeah, dude, this
send him home, Dom. Send Eastwood home.
Into the sunset, into the great. No, Clint Eastwood, you're too old for this. You're too old to act. I'm sorry, you're too old to act, sir. You are a good actor. You have a great career of acting. I'm so sorry. You take me out of it now. At least in this film, maybe, you know what, Mule was probably the best role for you. I don't think you can carry the weight of other roles outside of that much. I'm sorry. Prove me wrong, but this ain't it, Chief. And directing, I have more faith in your directing. But yeah, this film really was on the shoulders of Eastwood's acting and his ability to direct Eduardo Manet, and on those two most important fronts, it failed. I think it wasn't a total disaster. It will not make my bottom 5. No way. It's just unfortunately just boring and forgettable to me, and in ways cliched and eye rolling, particularly with the Natalia character. I'm like, what? Or both of these female characters are really gonna fall for this guy? I don't know. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna give it 2 out of 4 stars. Just right there in the middle.
Joe, you can go.
I won't be as harsh as Dom to Mr. Eastwood. Hey, man, if you want to play another 90-year-old Korean veteran that delivers drugs for the cartel, like, one last time in The Mule 2 or something, like, redemption, I don't know. I think he, like, with this movie, there were some questionable parts with his acting. I think he is, like, something's going on with his voice. I don't know if he's losing it or something. But his age is limiting him to what roles he can take and what believability it has. Especially when, you had the 2 women in this movie being, like, really interesting. Like, you had that 20-minute scene where they're, like, exchanging flirty eyes to another. And I'm just like, are you serious right now? I for one, am just like, look, I can see him do one last performance. And I can see him direct until, like, literally he's in the coffin, like, right there and then. Like, this man will probably be in a hospital still directing. They'll just push him around in the bed while he's, like, attached to an IV and everything while he directs. Performance-wise, I would love to see one last performance from him. And if this is it is the most appropriate because, as Steve has brought up, the theme of it. But it just sucks that, like, it's just not a good movie to me. It's just an average film to me. It's so average from somebody this legendary, that both as an actor and especially as a director. For me, it's like, it's also 2 out of 4 stars. I suggest if you're looking for something to watch with Clint Eastwood and you still haven't seen The Mule, it is airing on TBS. I know TBS's logo is very funny, but the movie is not that funny, but it's a very good movie. So definitely check that out. Cry Macho, on the other hand, I mean, like, if you want to watch, I think it might be a good companion piece to watch after The Mule. It has nothing to do with with each other, but if you want to check it out after that, go right ahead. But for me, it's like, man, like, you're better off just like, if you saw Richard Jewell or The Mule, you could probably skip on this one, and then I don't know, 2 out of 4 stars for me.
What was that old drop that used to play before, like, Lupe Fiasco songs, Haters in the Building or whatever? You know, there was that old drop that used to play before, like, the show goes on and stuff. Because man, oh man, Haters in the Building. Look, I'm not going to vehemently disagree with a lot of stuff that's been said here. I think I reiterate my point that I think that this is going to be one of Eastwood's many films that a lot of us are going to come to appreciate more when he's gone. Because what we have right now is a living legend who's got this economical filmmaking style that's produced a lot of gems. And moreover, between The Mule and this, a lot of really bashful, humbled entries into his canon that I think are personally meaningful. Meunier's performance aside, and again, some other aspects of this movie, I guess, because I can kind of see where Dom's coming from too, and I tend to agree that there really isn't anything else but the boy and the old man. There's really nothing else. There's nothing else to cut to that's really of greater impact. I'd be interested to see how the book reads. I got to give it 3 out of 4 stars, though, because I would recommend this. And at the end of the day, that's my 3 out of 4 star barometer is, would I recommend this? Do I find this movie worth recommending? And I do. I don't think it's making my top 10, or even if I made a top 15, hypothetically. I don't think it's going that high. And I do wish that The Mule would probably stand as Eastwood's last performance. But there's enough to like here, and I think that Eastwood fans will find this appropriate. And I'll end with, just personally, one of the great Letterboxd churns out some really good content. Letterboxd is like Twitter for film nerds, but fun. Letterboxd had this one user had a really good review on Letterboxd of Cry Macho. Review, I use that mildly, but he said the Gran Torino Clint Eastwood would have a field day with that boy and his chicken. I'll end with that. But 3 out of 4 stars for Cry Macho. I'm the lone defender of this movie. Full review at stevepulaski.com. And also, can we put some respect, too, on country singer Dwight Yoakam doing his 1-2 thing? I know he didn't do a whole lot, but I do love the opening scene where it's Yoakam and Eastwood, and they go at each other like immediately. There's no like small talk or anything. They just walk into the room and immediately start pissing and moaning at each other. I did thoroughly enjoy that. But that wraps up Sleepless with Steve. Dan Schneider and Clint Eastwood. Who's beyond their prime? More we discuss. That's our show, though, today. Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube every Wednesday evening. Next week, it's Dear Evan Hansen, the movie that stars the oldest high schooler in existence, with Ben Platt, like 54. What is he, like 54 or something, playing a high school student? From a movie by the director of The Perks of Being a Wallflower, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be something else. This is gonna be a great Friday after work for me. But we're gonna review Dear Evan Hansen next week. Looking forward to it. If nothing else, I'll get to discuss it with 2 of my closest friends, so that makes me happy. Highlights will be posted at stevepulaski.com and, of course, on the YouTube channel on which you are watching the show right now. Next week, we'll come with some Dear Evan Hansen reviews, and we will also address some other surrounding news. Maybe there'll be an update on the Dan Schneider pilot, and the fact that I just said that now means we will not get any updates on it until about 2025. So we'll be I don't know what we're going to be broadcasting on. We'll be on Quibi by then or something. Yeah.
We'll be on Paramount Plus by then.
Yeah, Paramount Minus. Anyway, that's our show, Sleepless with Steve. Highlights posted here, stevepulaski.com. For Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.